Not so much, but it does after the calculation. Is it these two, Warren and Sanders, against the moderates,
right,
or because of they're sharing these two, Senator Sanders and Senator Warren, close friends, close partners on many of these issues.
Are they actually close friends?
Yes, they are. And they actually legitimate. Some politicians say they're friends. They're actually close. They're legitimately close. But they're holding 30% of the Democratic Party vote. So is it? Do they defend Medicare for all and other things against John Delaney? John Delaney says it's a bad idea. John Hickenlooper says it's a bad idea. Tim Ryan says, I'm not sure we can afford it, although he's more with them than not. Steve Bullock says it's a bad idea. Amy Klobuchar says it's a bad idea. Is it these two against them, or do we get fireworks between these two? This, to me, is the unanswered question. At some point, just like Kamala Harris decided, I'm friends with Joe Biden. I like Joe Biden. I was very close with Joe Biden's son, Beau Biden. The only way to get to win is to go through him.
But don't forget,
does she decide the only way to keep her momentum going is to go through him? Does she do that now, or does she decide right now is the time to defend the progressives, partner with him to make the case against them that a progressive can win? Is that this strategy this time? Or is it fireworks between the two of them? And I'm talking about in the context of what does Senator Warren think? What does Senator Sanders think? Senator Sanders is struggling. So, yeah, he's in the middle of the pack. He has an enormous fundraising network. He has a very loyal group of supporters. He can be in this till the very end. But if you look at him vis-a-vis 2016, he's in the teens. And so does he decide she's a threat? And she is a threat. Does he decide to air? So does he decide she's a threat? And she is a threat. Does he decide to air it in the debate? That's my question.
Yeah, just to add to Tuesday, there are some other people on the stage, and they're all going to want to differentiate themselves to a degree, because it's make or break for somebody like a Steve Bullock or a Steve Ryan or a Hickenlooper, and what they're going to try and do is go after Warren or Bernie and say, look, here's what I believe, and you don't represent the party. So to your point, is that these other people could play into this and try and score against these two, and then they could team up together and put off that fight until another day. But we don't know.
It's also worth noting in this, the most diverse field the Democratic Party has ever had, all the first night are white candidates, and the racial diversity is entirely in the second night, which changes the dynamic, especially because, obviously, race has been a front and center issue in America this week, has been in this campaign. It is an issue that is sort of coursing through this Democratic primary. And it's just interesting, of course, random draw that it ended up that way with all white candidates on one night and all.
There are ways to differentiate themselves that is not necessarily about Medicare for all. I think that where Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders really could come across as quite different candidates is when you're talking about race. You're talking about those issues. Senator Warren has been historically considerably more comfortable with them than Senator Sanders has been. So if they both have a question like that, I think that could be a real opportunity.
In that particular vein, I mean, Elizabeth Warren does not have as long of a record as Bernie Sanders does. She's going to go back. She has to decide, does she want to go after him on his vote on immunity to gun manufacturers, for example? Does she want to go after him on his opposition to, potentially opposition to reparations, et cetera? Yeah. So that is interesting because he doesn't have as much to go after.
Let's also look at Wednesday night. Yeah. I mean, this, the rematch between Biden and Harris.
This is going to be the thrill and whatever. We got a big rematch now, and I think both of these candidates have a lot on the line. Kamala Harris just knocked this guy on his seat. And the question is, and so people say, listen, she got a lot out. There's a quiet concern, though. People saying maybe she was too mean. Maybe she's too harsh. She's got to make a calculation. Do I keep doing that? Do I show another side? He, on the other hand, has got to show some spine. And they're going to be calculating now how tough, how mean, but if he gets too tough, then he overdid it. So they've got a big fight.
She's going to be helped by Cory Booker, though. Right. Don't forget, this is the first time that Cory Booker has been on the stage with Joe Biden after he came out. He was so critical of Biden after Biden talked about the segregationists that he worked with in the United States Senate. And I think Booker is going to, we'll see if Booker goes after Biden.
I'm sorry.
No, that'll be a possibility.
I think we also ought to allow for the fact that even though these matchups are important, and I appreciate the fight night analogies, they all have imperatives strategically. Elizabeth Warren is doing very, very well, but she's doing well with college-educated voters, very liberal voters, and young voters. She hasn't broken through with white working-class voters, and her message is geared that way. She needs to find. I think she would have liked to have been in the debate with Biden perhaps to have that discussion about the bankruptcy bill to help burnish her